You are now entering Maximum Driftcast, the only drifting podcast hosted by a Spanish soccer mom, a 30-year-old silver-haired fox going on 60, and finally, a 200-pound bowl of spaghetti with chimichanga arms.
The champions, we are the champions.
And we're back to a new episode of the Maximum Driftcast.
What?
The only drifting podcast with two muscular men and one man baby.
Man baby. is Sam the man baby?
No, Brian is.
Oh, okay.
Brian's my little man baby.
It's a big balls man
Big
baby.
balls, man baby. Well, do you remember that picture we took at your house, Brian? We're actually wearing matching shirts.
Huh?
Do you remember that picture we took at Paco's house? We were wearing matching shirts and they were plaid.
Yes.
And we were standing next to each
Yes.
It's
other.
a full video. You guys look like twins. Like
yeah.
Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
We gotta find that. But that's my little man baby, big balls over there.
And that's because Sam is not here with us tonight.
Oh God. So Sam texted us during this very rough time that we have right now, and Sam is in an airplane. He's not flying it. He's riding an airplane.
And he's going to Bali because he's getting married and he's celebrating his wedding at Bali like the baller he is.
Yep. So there you go. So Sam is getting married to some chick he met off the internet.
I thought he was getting married to John Bon Jovi's audio guy.
Oh yeah, Brett. Sam's getting married to Brett, Bon John's audio guy. So you're stuck with us. You're stuck with the trio, Big Balls, Paco, and myself. So we had a great conversation with Jim and Ryan last week, which was much needed. And they went over a few things that are going to be changing this year in Formula Drift. And the thing was, we were just kind of figuring out, we need more on those details. We need to figure out, what are you guys actually talking about? I get it. You guys run the largest drifting organization in the world. I get it. You don't need to tell me more than that.
Yep.
But do you know what? I want to talk to somebody that knows about the cars.
Who's like down in the dirt.
I want to know somebody that is in the nitty gritty, Brian. You feel me on that?
Yep.
I don't know anybody, dude.
You don't know Paco?
Yeah.
We still need to get you down in those trenches and shaking hands with these people that make all the decisions.
It's on the handshake, huh?
That's all. It's the secret handshake. Don't you have one?
Oh, like
this.
a-
No, like this. Get it over here. Get closer to mine. Oh, there you go. Bring it in, and then you just open it
Ah!
up. Oh God,
That's
I wanna see
disgusting.
that.
I heard the phone ringing. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I would like to talk to somebody that knows what they're doing. That's the thing is I just don't know if we have anybody.
Somebody with a nose?
No, that knows,
Oh.
knows what they're doing. Because you know what? I'm just fed up of talking to people that just don't know anything. Like, think about it. I talk to you and Sam every week. What do you guys know?
I know nothing.
So it gets tough. It's
I'm
tough,
like-
man. You know what I mean?
They call me the Jon Snow of drifting.
Jon Snow. They call
Yeah,
me the
so
Gold Dust.
I don't know anything.
No, I'm like the Gold Dust.
You're like Goldust, like WWE's
Yeah, the
gold
WWF
with a
gold
gold
suit.
I think somebody's trying to hack in.
Oh
Who's
God,
that?
who would he? Oh man.
Oh
Oh
my
boy.
God.
Do you know what? You look familiar. You look really familiar, actually. Paco, where have I seen this guy?
Maybe on the live stream.
Oh, that's right. Do you know? I know you're the famous guy that holds the stopwatch during the live stream during 5 minutes.
Yes.
Dude, how did you score that?
What a job.
That is awesome. So is that like a full-time gig, or what's the title that you have for holding stopwatches?
Yeah, time cop or competition director.
Time
Oh,
cop. That's a throwback to
I love it.
Jean-Claude Van Damme right there.
Total Time Cop or Robo Time Cop?
Robo Time Cop.
He has
That's
a
even
leg.
better.
He has a leg that opens up and a little stopwatch pops out.
Dun, 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 dun.
So, anyways, maybe you can help us. I know you've been running the time clock for quite some time, but I'm looking somebody that could help us out with some tech stuff. Do you know anybody?
Sure, I can try to help you
Oh,
out.
you. Well, hold on.
I don't know.
Hold
I mean,
on.
at least give us your credentials. Like,
Is this the? I'm assuming you're Kevin Wells. Is this the Kevin Wells that built the space station?
Not quite.
Okay. Well, is this the Kevin Wells that built the highest horsepower steam engine?
Nope, that's not me.
Is this hold on, Paco? Is this the Kevin Wells, which was the crew chief of Formula of Chris Forsberg when he won his championship?
Yes.
uh-oh.
One of them.
Okay. Now it's kind of ringing.
Starting to ring a
Did
bell.
you work on Von Ginn Jr.'s team?
I worked with Vaughn back in the day when he was on Falcon.
Okay. Oh, so you've worked with Team Falcon then, right?
That's correct.
Wow. Okay. Let me see. We might be onto something here. Have you been with Formula Drift since like day one?
Yep, since the
All right,
beginning.
maybe you might help us a little bit then, because it seems like you might have a little bit more credentials than Paco. But
Hey, before we get started, real quick, Kevin, we only see like barely your chin, man. If you just angle it down
Oh.
just a little
Oh,
bit
there you
more.
go.
There
So
you
you-
go. Thank you.
That was Brian Young, Maximum Driftcast technical supervisor.
Sorry to interrupt. Glad to have you on the show. Please
We,
continue.
we have our own technical supervisor here too.
so,
yeah.
Kevin, I know it's tough being in the spotlight all the time because the camera's always on you. You know, how difficult is it to be on the camera all the time?
I try to avoid that as much as possible, but sometimes it happens and people crash and we have the clocks out.
That just seems so uncharacteristic of you. You know, I usually see you as a guy jumping in. You're very outspoken. A lot of your posts on Facebook are very public. You know, I just want to know, how tough is it to maintain that kind of personality and image in the drifting community?
That must be the Kevin that made the space station, because yeah, that's not me.
Oh, Dino, I got you confused as Andy Luck. Sorry.
Oh,
Yes, that guy.
That was my bad. Sorry, Andy. Sorry, Kevin. So, Kevin, thank you for coming on the show. I'm glad we got all that stuff out of the way, because I really didn't know much about you other than you won championships with Forsberg, and I know you love Dr. Pepper, but now I know everything about you, and now I feel confident asking you any question. Paco, how do you feel?
I have so many questions. I don't even know where to start.
Man, I know this is going to be one. And Sam was really wanting to be on this because he wanted to know, who do you think you are? That's the question is, hey, who do you think you are?
Yeah, he sent us a question specifically for you. So
But I think we've answered that. I feel confident enough. We answered the who do you think you are.
Sam's second question is, what gives you the right?
Let's start off with that. What gives you the right, Kevin?
The right to do what?
Exactly. That's not a bad answer. We haven't had that
Perfect.
answer before. We'll take it. So we talked to your buddies, Jim and Ryan, last week, and they were mentioning tons of stuff that's happening to the series. They brought up the fact that, God, they went over so many different things. Paco. Just as far as technical rules and things that they're changing, and it seems
dude.
like this series is really developing a lot this year and trying to make it, I don't know, a little more streamlined or efficient, or to make it a little more competitive.
Yeah, a little more understood by the people who maybe still trying to come new into drifting as
Yeah,
well.
there's still a big misunderstanding on what goes behind the cameras. That, like, when all the technical aspects, like let's say let's talk about, for example, what happened with our very good buddy Kristaps Blues. That
Right.
time where they run over the jack stand, and a lot of people's like, oh, just let him run. But you are responsible up to some point also of the driver's safety. Even if they're like ready and willing, you're like, I can't just like let you go do this, right? So
So with that being said, what is your role or what is your job in the series?
I mean, I guess a lot of it falls down to safety and then trying to make sure that the vehicles are competitively even for the most part. Since we have such a variety of chassis, it's actually a pretty difficult job trying to not give anyone a particular advantage.
So between just managing, and obviously you are the one that is underneath the cars and inspecting every single car that competes. So not
Right.
only are you continuously improving the rule book and making changes, but you're actually the dude that is getting underneath the car to making sure every car passes tech.
Yep.
So with that,
But you also set the guidelines, right, on like what needs to be done, what's allowed to be done on a car before being built. So when the cars show up, they don't just get rejected like Corey's.
hey, come on now, I don't want to
Right.
go on the road.
No, we write the rules and some people read them and some people don't.
Can you write a rule book that's just all in pictures?
Like an IKEA rule book.
Yeah, I need an IKEA assembly instruction guide for FD rules if you have that.
I've been adding pictures every year, almost.
And those are the ones that I usually get
Just to
right.
make it more clear.
You need to make those pictures like black and white so Corey can use it as a coloring book.
Yeah, I'll fill it in. We can scan it. And everybody gets a fresh painted tech book. But starting off, let's go to this. Back to the conversation with Ryan and Jim. They are saying we are no longer running front brake lights on competition cars. What is the story behind that and why?
Basically, over the years, left foot braking has become more common and more accepted. So now it just kind of looks ridiculous that you throw it into the bank at Irwindale and your brake light is on the whole entire time. So this is kind of a way to let, not make it so obvious. They can still see the rear brake light strip and still see the tail lights, but if they're not deducting the drivers for using their tools, then we don't necessarily need to advertise it to the fans that the lead car is on the brakes.
So
If that makes sense.
So let's roll back to when that rule was implemented. Why was that rule even implemented? Like, what was the idea of adding that front brake light strip, and when do you think that was actually added into the rule book, or how were things different then versus now?
I don't know what year that was added. That was before my time with Formula D. That was when I was on the team side. I believe that was basically to just stop people from left foot braking because, then we had Reese and Sam who were tremendous left foot brakers, and there would be a lot of, front wheel lockups on the banks and using different things to control it. So it kind of reduced the momentum that a lot of people had to maintain in the lower horsepower cars. So they did that so it would stand out more. But now everyone's high horsepower and everyone does it, so it's kind of different.
No, that's
it's
interesting.
just developed over the years.
Well, it's right, because you had Reese in the GTO, which at the time was probably making 500 horsepower, and then you had Sam in the Viper, which I believe, you might be able to tell me this, but wasn't that like a full tube chassis, custom-built car?
Well, he had many Vipers over the years.
Right.
But the basic one, as far as I know, because obviously I was just seeing it from an opposite team side, was just the regular competition coupe.
Okay.
But the way that those cars are constructed, they're kind of constructed more tube than a standard unibody like we're more used to seeing.
Right, yeah, I had a chance to look at Dean Kearney's car, and it's like there's so much adjustability and there's so much you can do with it. It's just, do you think people are at an advantage or disadvantage driving something like that?
I think that one, probably the wheelbase to width ratio and stuff like that, makes that car probably harder to drive. So it's probably not quite as much of an advantage as it would seem, since it was made much more for road racing.
Interesting.
One of the other things I remember a couple years ago, Conrad Brunwald had a Camaro that had active aero. Remember that one, Corey? They had like little shaft in the middle to adjust. Which, I mean, I don't know if that was actually like better for drifting or not, or what. But you guys have a rule against active aero, right?
Yes.
What is the actual like reason why active aero is not allowed?
I mean, I guess basically like on his, for example, he hit it on something and then the thing fell off and then the actuator's dragging on the ground and the wing thing's dragging on the ground. And there's a bunch of parts that can basically hit the vehicle and the driver behind them. So that is not a great outcome on that. And a lot of it would just be having the car be the same for lead and follow runs. So it's more consistent that the driver's not constantly making adjustments to compensate for the other vehicles, because then the other car has to do the same thing and it just snowballs.
Well, that's kind of interesting, because isn't it within this past year or two, or it might even be a little bit longer, you guys removed electronic controllable dampening from inside the car. Did you just recently remove that not too long ago?
That was last year before. Yeah.
Because back in the day, you'd be able to, I think Tane or one other competing company had like Vaughn was using it. It was actually all electrical, up and down per corner. So you can actually change your suspension dampening after a run. So you can do a run.
You can be on the seat and just say, like, Alexa, update my dampening to 0.6.
Soften it up,
yeah.
Alexa. Alexa, play Power Rock 80s and loosen up the rear, Alexa. Yeah. No, but yeah, that's the thing. It seems like you guys are getting down a path now where you guys are looking for more consistency between battles rather than dramatic changes in between each run. Leading up into this year, obviously you mentioned the brake light rules, and there may be a few other rules, but what rules are you guys planning on bringing in this year that we may not even know yet, or something that you guys is in the works? Do you guys have anything?
For sporting wise, we have quite a few changes that are coming. Basically, for practice, we're going to limit your amount of laps prior to qualifying. So you're going to get 12 laps prior to qualifying. So you can't just go out there and run all Thursday and all Friday morning. You're going to get 12 laps for that. And then I think probably bigger, more significant change is when you qualify, you're going to have to do it on one set of tires.
Wow.
I got a question about
That's huge.
But the number of laps,
Hold on.
is that something that's guaranteed for each driver? 12 laps?
Hold on. Yeah. Let's break that down. So go ahead, Kevin. What do you got to say for that?
No, that's not guaranteed. That's the maximum number of laps you can have for practice.
So
if you go out there and you do 2 laps and you're content and you want to pull off, fine. If you go out and do 3 or 4 laps and then you sit out the other 3 hours of practice, we're not going to give you more time to go use the rest of your laps.
But now you can't buy extra
well,
practice
I
time,
don't think
right?
you guys realize this. Is this including Thursday practice as well?
Yes, Thursday and Friday until qualifying.
So
this only applies to Pro, not Pro 2.
All right, so let me explain this real quick. So for you guys that didn't know, Thursday, it's usually open practice for Pro 1 and Pro 2 guys. Back in the day, or even just the previous year, you can pay for a Thursday open practice, and it's not mandatory. You can pay if you want, and everybody usually does because it's a great opportunity to go out there and learn. And you can try to do as many laps as you possibly can in what is that, a 4-hour window, Kevin, for
Yes.
practice?
But now that Thursday practice is included, not extra.
Oh, okay. So
It's been that way for, I don't know, 2 years.
okay. So now it's you go out there and you run in Thursday practice, and you can get as many laps as you possibly can and develop the car, right? You may even do 12 laps on Thursday, right? You could do 12 laps on Thursday. And then on Friday before qualifying, you can maybe do another 8 to 12. So you may get 24 laps of development and setting up the car, making changes and things like that. But
That's 12 laps per day or 12
you can
laps
do as many
between
as you
both days?
want in 4 hours. But now it's 12 laps spread over 2 days. Is that correct?
Yes, 12 laps prior to qualifying. So whenever we do qualifying in that amount of practice, that's all you get.
Now, what is the actual, the particular reason for that limitation?
Well, there's a bunch of advantages. One, basically, it helps the tire companies that are involved in the series because it helps actually their management and transport and mounting and everything of the tires. Because otherwise, if they bring 30 tires for you and you use 25 tires prior to qualifying, and then you start doing good, they have to take tires away from somebody else.
That's interesting.
So that's one part of the aspect. And at least, depending on how you're sponsored and how many tires you're allocated, it actually just makes the playing field more even.
So
on
pretty
that
much
whole aspect.
the driver who's not lucky enough to get unlimited tires gets the same opportunity of practice than the driver.
Well, you may have a
Right.
driver that gets 1,000 free tires per event. You may have a guy that's paying for tires and can only afford X, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the guy with the unlimited amount of tires is going to do as many laps as he possibly can, while the other guy's kind of conserving his runs over the course of 2 days. But the other thing, too, that was, one thing about practice is there was always a massive line. Like, Kevin, if you were to break it down on Thursday practice, how many runs do you think a normal driver would get in the old school way?
It kind of depends. We have between 9 and 15. Some do 17. It kind of depends on the weather and the way everything else works out at that particular event for the flow. But we kept track of it over a few years to try to get to this number of 12
Right.
to figure out that is a reasonable amount of practice for each driver.
Over the course of 2 days.
Right. And the thing is with this too is if you do happen to have a problem, obviously we could shorten the amount of practice time and basically accomplish the same goal. So if we gave you 2 hours of practice on Thursday instead of 4, but if you had a problem or you broke a tranny or had to do something, now basically your window of opportunity is closed. You're done.
Interesting.
So if I leave it at 4 hours, you get a chance to swap your clutch or whatever in an hour out of those 4 hours and come back out and get more laps.
Interesting, because before it's when time was up, but if something were to happen, let's say you only get, here, let's look at a scenario like this, right? Let's say I'm going into Thursday practice, I break a transmission, right? I only get 1 run in. Let's say half of the fields may have done 8 runs on Thursday. Well, guess what? They can only do 4 on Friday. I can use all 12 runs or 11 runs on the day before on qualifying day. So even though you may have missed the time, you could still get that same amount of seat time on the day after, if that makes sense.
Right, and it might be possible because now there's less people in line because they've already hit their quota.
Right. Okay. Now it's making sense. And let's go back to cost control, because for some of you guys that don't know, tires are allocated prior to the round, right? So if you work with a tire supplier within Formula Drift, they say, hey, do you know what? You got 28 tires this round, or you get 30 tires this round. That 30 tires is spread over from test day on Thursday all the way up through one more times and all the way up to the podium battle. So I could definitely see that being cost control, because you could literally, you're getting two runs per set of tires. So if you do 12 runs, you're already going through 24 tires in one day, right? Now you're already a quarter of a way or even 3/4 of the way through your tire budget. So now you're only leaving yourself with, maybe 10 to 12 tires for competition and qualifying. So I guess it is giving a little bit better budget control and management.
Is this something that the tire manufacturers might have brought up to the series? Like, hey guys, is there a way your drivers can spend less tires, or is it something that came up as a consequence of the of just like trying to even the playing field? Like, it just seems like there's a lot of people that it's they're writing this conspiracy theory, that the tire manufacturers are running the show now.
Well, I mean, we've spoken about it. I don't exactly remember who brought it up first. I think it was more one of those things that sometimes you see towards the end of an event, certain drivers are struggling for tires to try to get to the podium.
Right. Yeah.
Because they've been used up, or a competitor that used 20-some tires and then got knocked out in top 32.
Well, let's go back to Dylan Hughes and Travis Reeder in Seattle. Didn't Dylan run out of tires? He was borrowing tires from teams that were knocked out earlier, just because he used all those tires leading up to that particular round. If it was consecutive one more times, or used too much in practice, or it could have just been down to overall budget and managing of the amount of tires that he got, that could have affected that. So that's a pretty interesting idea. And then also rolling to that, the thing that blows me away the most is now that you guys are changing all these tires rules, you're only allowed to use one set of tires for both qualifying runs.
Right.
You guys haven't done that at all before, right? In the series, this is the first time you are trying that.
Yes, that's the first time we're trying that. Basically, as an effort to, instead of having a qualifying setup and then having a tandem setup, we're trying to eliminate that and make it more of an even playing field for the teams that can't afford to either hire enough people to help them do both setups, and just make it simpler overall. And then when you're running qualifying, you're actually probably going to be running a line and performing the way you will be in tandem, instead of having two completely different setups.
Can you elaborate a little bit on qualifying setups and competition setups? Like, what's the big difference? What are people doing in qualifying that they're not doing in tandem? But what is the big difference that these guys are doing for setups?
I would say probably for the most part, the cars are looser in qualifying, so they can get out closer to the wall, so they can make more smoke, so they can get all the way through. But that's why they're burning almost a complete set of tires in one run. They're basically taking grip out of the car. If it's either, suspension, sway bars, what have you, they're doing that to make it get exactly where they want it to for qualifying. But we're basing all our tandem runs off of qualifying.
Which would literally be impossible to do if you're running what you're doing in qualifying, because you're going to be blowing the tires off the car and not really going anywhere.
Right.
Okay. So, so let me translate that again. So people are a lot of the drivers may loosen up their car, get more wheel speed, more smoke, makes the car easier to drive. So it's super loose, super freed up. And what they do going into tandem competition, they tighten the car up more, so they'll have more speed to outdrive the other driver, correct?
Right, basically to run away from the car behind them. But now your competition in qualifying is different than tandem, and if you've been practicing with someone that's been running a qualifying setup the majority of your Thursday and Friday, now you get into tandem with them, and now the game's changed again. You know what I mean?
Right, because so for an
We
example,
might actually have a better show if everyone's running a competition setup
all the
whole
time, right? So that's the other thing too is a lot of spotter that could help spotters and other people in the team, because now it's more of a consistent level. If people are timing certain sectors of the track or logging certain sectors of the track based off their qualifying, and then they try to implement that into a tandem, that information they're giving is not going to be the same because the setups are different and the speeds are going to be different. In the qualifying, they're going to be way looser, way slower, more smoke, less speed. And then the tandem, it may be dialed back a little bit on smoke, more grip, more speed. So now it's going to throw everything off.
Yeah, that's a good point on the spotters thing. I didn't think about that because that does make their job a lot easier, being able to study the drivers as they go along.
Right, and that's one thing that I've never really considered, because I think you still do have two types of people in Formula Drift. I still think you have the people that are just going to run 10-10s all the time, and now I would say over the course of the past 5-6 years, competition has gone through the roof, and people are just finding ways to, I don't know if it's taking advantage of it, but just different strategies to give themselves an advantage, and that could be definitely one of them. So by limiting their tires and using one tire for qualifying, that may make a massive difference on overall competition and the way people drive. 100%.
That's the plan. So hopefully it ends up in a better show overall that makes something better for the fans and for everyone else to enjoy, makes it easier for the smaller teams to compete with the bigger teams, just to more parity, even the playing field a little bit.
Well, that's funny. Obviously, you've been around the sport for quite some time, and like one of the biggest complaints is, oh man, it's just getting so expensive now. Not everybody can afford it. But now you guys are making moves for it to be more sustainable for even for the little guys coming up into the sport.
I mean, you have to. Otherwise, where are you going to get your future drivers from?
Right. No, that's awesome that you guys are making moves, and it's going to be interesting to see that in Long Beach. Only one set of tires for practice. But the other thing too, or excuse me, one tires for qualifying. But on Long Beach is the only track of the year where they don't do Thursday practice, right?
Correct.
So you're going to have 12 practice runs. So it's all pretty much going to be the same at Long Beach. We won't notice it until the following round how the practice works out and things like that. But
Right.
So Kevin, with all these rules coming in and about, how did the topics of changing rules or creating rules come about? How do you guys know when to get to the point you should probably change something, or what causes an idea for you to start something?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the time it just goes back and forth. The judges see a problem or something that seems a little odd, and just kind of sparks the conversation. And then we basically just bounce around ideas in emails and texts and stuff, and just try to learn from everything that's happening. And then, obviously in FD Japan, I spend a lot more time with the judges than I do here in the States. So we get more time to talk to each other about different things that are happening. And our judges do so many events all over the world for, different events. They can learn a lot from all these different experiences.
Do you guys, what's the typical reaction from the drivers when you come up with a rule, with a new rule? Like, do you guys try to approach the drivers first? Like, hey guys, what do you think if we do this? Or do you just come up with a new rule and see how they react?
It kind of depends. Sometimes, if a driver happens to call me or something, I'll mention, things and kind of get people's opinions. And obviously, with the tire rule, I talk to the manufacturers just to kind of see their input, if they're against it or for it or whatever. Obviously, trying to make everyone mad at the same time, and just go through. But I think overall, it's mostly internal, and we just try to discuss through and get the pros and cons on all these different changes before we release them.
So real quick, Kevin, I have a question from you from one of our YouTube commenters. Real quick, before I ask the question, on Friday practice before qualifying, is that open to the public? The practice is open to the public, right, on Friday?
Yeah, I've been there. when it's practice on Friday?
Yes, it just depends on basically the venue and what time we open the gates
Okay.
to let the fans in.
Right.
So a lot of the time, depending on it, I believe it's a half an hour into practice starting. I think it is more of the template for the schedule.
Right. So some people are asking, well, if I'm going to be at a Formula Drift event and I go there to watch practice and qualifying, am I going to be missing a lot of the practice runs if people burn them up on Thursday? Is that going to affect the show for us if we show up, or how's that going to work for the spectators? Do you think are they going to be impacted by that at all if they show up Friday to watch practice and qualifying?
I kind of doubt it because usually our Thursday practice block is a different time than Friday practice. So depending on when competition is the next day, like at top 32 at the same time as Friday morning practice, a lot of people will make sure they get laps in on Friday morning practice.
Either
so
way.
it's the same time as the next day.
Okay, so leading into that, let's say you qualify, you practice, you make top 32, going on to a Saturday competition day. Does top 32 open practice, they can get as many runs in as they want?
Yep, free game.
Okay, so you're limiting the rules prior to qualifying, but after qualifying and making the show, you can go back to practicing as much as you want. And I think that's only, an hour and a half, 2 hour long window?
Yeah, hour and a half.
2 hours. So, you think
you
about the
can
drive
practice
time
as much as you want, but just with those amount of tires.
that you end up getting correct.
Yeah.
So, but
So
once
it's
again,
it's up to you how much you want to make him last, or
or if you feel comfortable, you may just do one run right before top 32 and go. So there's always a strategy getting in. So maybe some people may go drive and just get a comfortable rundown and go qualify, saying, "Hey, do you want to make my practice up in top 32, where it really matters?" So there's going to be a lot more strategies kind of implemented, which is I think it's going to be a huge difference.
What about it's been a little bit of a hot topic, but like tire debeading.
Yep.
That's like some people have argued for it. I mean, including Mike Kojima. He was making an argument about safety, where saying adding stuff to tires so they don't debead is actually safety regulations. You don't have like parts suddenly flying off the track, especially after that accident that happened in Japan, where an entire wheel.
Well, that's a major mechanical failure. Right.
Absolutely, but I mean, it definitely I get it. I mean, I personally don't see why not allowing for what do you call it again? No, any kind of attachment devices, or what was that again, Kevin?
Yes.
You've kind of been changing the wording on it quite a bit because people will change the definition of what you're actually saying that particular item is.
Right. So the way it's written is beadlocks, wheel screws, and any means of attachment between the wheel and tire is prohibited.
Okay, so I mean,
the reason for this also goes back to obviously the amount of tires we use. If I allow you to, do wheel screws like you would on a drag car, or beadlocks like you would on an off-road car, off-road truck or something, they mount their tires and they run them for a long period of time.
Right.
They're not running them for 30 seconds at a time and then, changing them. So that would be a gigantic project if you had beadlocks on 20 sets of wheels and had to mount 30 tires per team. You know what I mean? It would be a tremendous expense to do something like that. Not to mention the wheels are more expensive, and it kind of goes on and on from there.
So wouldn't that defeat the purpose of showcasing a street legal tire by having to have an application to hold that factory tire on the wheel? Wouldn't that kind of
if the tire from factory just came with some kind of more
no
gooey...
like if I'm buying a Nexen tire, right, and I see guys running beadlocks on it, why would I want to buy that? Like what would be why would you showcase a tire that way when people are running it at 4, 5, 6 pounds and the risk of I think it defeats the purpose of showcasing also what the tire is capable of. Use the tire for what it's developed for.
It's something to think about too. Is the reason why we're having debeading in the first place?
Yeah, I mean because of the running very low psi. What's the lowest they go? 6 pounds maybe.
Probably.
I mean,
Kevin would probably know more than that.
Probably right around in there is pretty low. It's definitely in the single digits that people are running. And I mean, without doing some form of minimum tire pressure rule, which some other series have, not for drifting, but for, different things. But that is a super hard thing to police because once again, they're running a set of tires for an entire heat or an entire race. They're not running them for 30 seconds, changing them, 30 seconds, changing them. Trying to keep track of that and monitor that is a pretty difficult task. So far, this is the easiest method that we've come up with to basically make this work.
So I mean, like for some people who might have a doubt, like the whole idea of running very low psi on your tires is just to make the tire even grippier, right? Which that's kind of like the idea of having a tire that is like street legal tire. It means that it's not like a ultra sticky compound, right? I mean, that's kind of like that's maybe why it's considered like a little like a cheap move or something like that. I mean, I just personally I think I'm totally okay with if somebody wants to run 0 psi as long as it gets results. Obviously if
But
the
then you
tire
got to
doesn't
start getting in
debead-
the safety feet. The safety obviously if running, and that's a risk. And now you're putting other people at risk by running
Yeah.
so slow. So there has to be a boundary there. And like obviously that's when they implemented the rule of hey, tire to beads. You lose automatically because it's a safety issue.
But like for example, like tires like run flats, they have
Right.
like a thicker sidewall.
Well, now you're affecting grip.
Well, I mean, but like I guess it's like you can get like some kind of balance. Like I don't know if like tire manufacturers they can just make like a tire that has got a very nice.
That's
thick,
a different. You're stepping into a world where it's millions and millions of dollars to develop a new tire
Yeah.
to run in the series. So there's really no ways around it. It's just run at a responsible tire pressure that works for you without blowing it off. You know the risk if you blow the tire off, you're gonna freaking lose.
It'll start affecting the builds of the car too if it becomes too much of a problem. Where like
Yeah.
they're to try to find grip another way instead of
might
just
as
loading
well
PSI.
just bring drag radials.
Right. No, it's so looking at the chat here, Chelsea's like, I think it's more expensive to fix your car after crashing from a DB tire or even a hospital bill. Well, at what point it's
true.
no, it's not true. It's a rule. It's a rule. If you're gonna go that low, you're risking yourself. You're risking yourself to crash the car. You know the risk if you go that low. Don't go that low if that's the risk. Don't
Yeah.
put yourself in the hospital. If you know you're getting to the points like, man, I'm about ready to blow the beat off on a total the car and kill myself, then don't go that low. That's plain and simple. There's other ways to get around it. And sure, you can go run stadium super trucks and all that and run beadlocks, but
Yeah.
like if that's the rules we have, you can't run any type of beadlocking device or mechanism, then run within what is safe and we
Yeah.
get the most grip out of
Which I mean, we've seen many drivers just running perfectly fine with so it's not like it's impossible.
it. No, it's not.
But for example, like one of the things.
Everybody's in the same boat. You know what I
That's
mean? So
another great
everyone's
point.
in the same thing. We don't have that many manufacturers. We don't have that much variety of tires. So if you're the only guy that's debeading constantly, then you're the one that needs to make the change.
Right.
Makes
And
sense.
you won't make the change because you lose automatically.
And well, speaking of safety, and like hospital bills and all that, I got a lot of people asking, like the actual reasoning for not allowing connect the strut towers to the roll cage, which I think we had a little bit of a conversation on a few episodes ago where we precisely talk about that it's just kind of like to allow the car to have those crumpling zones and let the driver, like absorb less of the impact. But like a lot of people's like saying like, oh, we can salvage the car. You never hit your car too hard. But just can we expand a little bit on that?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it is that, it helps absorb the impact, puts less shock into the driver. So that at least helps on that factor because comparing it to other motorsports, we don't necessarily drive in the same fashion.
Yeah,
So
you could
they
say.
they don't hit walls the way we do with the corners. So if you grab the back and the front snaps across, you're hitting it in a completely different way, and at least the car is repairable at that point. Because in other motorsports, if you caved in that corner and it was attached to the roll cage, that would total the car because it would bend that portion of the cage.
Oh, I see. So like that that cage. I mean, like if the cage gets bent at any point, the car is considered a loss.
Correct.
Oh.
It'll actually make it not cheaper
Yeah.
in that aspect of the car building, because if you do damage the car, you can't just take it down to Sam's and have them pull the front over and fix it all, because it'll be welded all together. You're gonna have to cut it, then pull it, and then fix that section of the cage,
But that just sounds.
or total the car basically.
Yeah, it sounds like a cage that's been bent and all that. And sounds very like compromised as far as integrity, right?
Right.
So real quick, as I'm reading through chat here, Sage hopped in and says, "You don't lose if the tire comes undone. You just can't change it. The run is still judged. It's not an auto zero anymore." So
Which is like what Jeff Jones, he had that tire to beat when he was running by himself, but he still went at it and he still.
But
had
the thing is, the tire's so far off, you can't put it back on. You can't
Yeah.
change it. So he'd be out. But the prime example would be Odie running Nexons back in the day at Seattle for a podium spot, and he debeated a tire, I think, coming off the Outer Bank. He ended up losing that podium spot because it just debeated, because at that point it was a DNF. So now, if the tire stays on the wheel, from my understanding, and you pull back, I believe, would you be able just to put air in it and air it up, Kevin? Is that the plan? No, so you have to just run it as is?
No, you can't run if it's been previously debeated.
So they can call a 5 minutes potentially and refill it, or call a 5 minutes
No.
and fix it? No, it's done.
So when you
Right.
when you do a 5-minute timeout, you're not allowed to change tires. Is that correct?
Correct. Unless there's been you
Contact.
basically can't qualify for the sake of changing tires. You have to have wrecked or had some other thing that damaged something else or damaged the rim in order to change those tires.
And that would be just in case of contact, right? Like if there was like a crash or something like that.
Right, or like when you're finishing the lap at Irwindale, say for some reason you hit that wall on the right-hand side and you cave in that rim.
Yeah.
You can do it at that point. Obviously you realign the suspension and you throw another rim and tire on.
Okay, so that's
In
because
most cases when that happens, I allow the other competitor to also change their tires.
huh.
Then that way it's fair. You're not getting an advantage of having
Fresh
new tires on your car and old tires on the other car.
Okay. And is it up to the driver? I mean, the driver gets to choose if they want to change tires or not. The other driver, like they don't have to.
Correct. Yes, if the other driver has the option to change tires, he
Okay.
doesn't have to.
Okay, is that new or is that how it's always been?
No, that's how it's been since we started the debeating rule.
Okay.
Was trying to make it at least fair on both sides. So you couldn't run over the rumble strips in Atlanta on purpose on your way back up the hill and say you need new tires, and now you have an advantage over the other guy. Now I give the other guy the option to also have new tires.
That makes
Basically to eliminate any fiddling around, basically. Any type of strategy that you could gain from that type of process.
Right. So, for example, you're coming down to the championship run, and some dude saved his 5 minutes and says, "All right, 5 minutes. We just finished my chase run. Let me put some better tires on for the lead and burn my time up." Well, it's not going to make a difference because that dude next to you will be able to do the same thing. So, same result.
Right.
Keep it in the even field.
And then it keeps the show going too. That way, you're not having people stop constantly to change tires because they can, and they
And
only have 1 5 minute. At some point, you might as well use it, right? So a lot of people would use it even though they didn't need to.
and there's no points deduction if your tire comes off, right? I mean, it's just as long as you keep driving the way you are driving and you keep in your line, it wouldn't affect your scoring, right?
I'd have to read that to you, but for qualifying and for tandem, it has different wording on the debeating.
Well, like I said, Ryan said, you don't lose if the tire comes undone. You just can't change it. The run is still judged, not auto zero anymore. So as long as you don't,
because run 1 and run 2 have different outcomes for the
Right.
debeating.
Yeah. Like even Sage is saying right here, if you debeat you want to debeat on your second run, because if you do on your first run, you're shot.
right?
Right.
Because you
Okay.
can't really
Yeah.
can't fill
You
it
can run,
back up.
yeah, you can run your second run unless the other guy just can't pull a second run either. Then it'll be a tie for double zeros, and then you have to go again, right? It'll be a one more time.
Right, but that is also up to the judges because they can basically pick what is a more dramatic fail, basically. What is the bigger mistake? You know what I mean?
So let's. I mean, let me just like make like a quick scenario. Yeah. So let's say you're driving, you feel that you debeat your tire. I mean, I guess most drivers will notice, like, oh shit, I lost my tire. If you go and like in purpose slam your car a little bit against the wall, can then you just like claim your 5 minute,
Oh my!
your 5 minute, timeout and just get a new tire?
But the other guy get new tires too.
Well, the problem is usually if you are going to do that, the judges will go through the footage and they'll review and see if the debeat happened prior, before or after the crash, because someone has to issue fault.
Okay.
So they'll go through the video and be like, oh, see, it's off right there. He hit the wall right there. You're still screwed. Because now you hit the wall because your tire debeated, not because you hit the wall on purpose.
Paco, you're always gonna get caught red-handed, Paco.
Well,
Paco is trying to cheat. This is
No, wait.
Judges are pretty good at keeping an eye out for that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because I can totally see that happen. Like people with strategies, like, oh shit, I lost that tire. Let me just kind of like smack the wall like real quick.
Why wouldn't you just drive it?
Loophole.
What I would do if I were you, Paco, is I'll just drive it in nose first and total the thing.
There you go.
Yeah, just get.
You have the crash zone. So
Yeah,
you're
so you have the
safe.
crunch. Well, the thing is, Paco's already cheating, so he has strut tower braces from the firewall to the strut tower. So it would just totally destroy everything.
I don't even have strut towers anymore.
You'd be out on a trike.
Yep. Actually, if you see, like for example, like Kevin Lawrence is also putting a scenario where he says, "What happens if a debeated What happens if the tire debeats on your first qualifying lap? Since you have to use the same tires for your second qualifying lap, are you allowed to just remount that tire, or that's it? You're done for both your runs."
I'm still working out the actual penalty phase of that portion because obviously there has to be some outcome if you cannot change tires. So those details I'm still trying to figure out and try to figure out all the exact scenarios like this. Do you lose a certain amount of points? You know what I mean? Or do you can't be above a certain position? Like what is the penalty that happens for doing that in qualifying?
Right, but if somebody debeats a tire in qualifying, they can refill it back up, run the same tire, and there's really no penalties.
At least just try to remount
But the thing
it.
is, if you blow your tires off in the first run, right, completely down to the cords, and you can't make a second run, you can just basically either say, I'm going to take my one run and not run the second.
Yeah,
or if there's an issue where he ends up getting a hole in his tire, or
what would
fucks
happen
up,
if your tire just blows up on your first qualifying
well, then
run?
there would be a potential penalty or an issue there.
Right.
So, an interesting turn of events on this stuff, man. This is I could understand the tire conservation and trying to make it more streamlined, trying to keep people away from changing multiple setups from qualifying to practice. But yeah, no, I think it's really definitely going to change how the overall performance and the flow of the show. It's going to be great. And like you said, I think it may create more consistency because we're not seeing so many types of changes throughout the cars through 2-3 days worth of stuff or driving.
Right. I think I was thinking about Kevin Lawrence's case, just walking it through in my head here. I mean, there's no reason. It's not like it's tandem, so there's nothing stopping you from changing your tire pressures in between runs, right?
Right.
In tandem, you can't do that. In qualifying, it's fine. It just has to be the same set. So yeah, you would just come back with whatever score you got on your first run, come back in, and obviously you could change the tire pressure or remount that tire.
That's good.
If that tire was destroyed, that would be another problem.
You have to find a used tire.
Yeah.
So
Go to
like-
Loco Llantera and pick up a...
So if the tire debeated, but it didn't come completely off the wheel, and you were able to finish at least some kind of a scoring pass, you can still reseat that tire,
Right.
air it up, and then
Yeah.
go to your
Yeah,
second
right,
run.
and then
as
not
long
be
as it's
affected.
the same tire,
Right.
so it'll be a little garfed up, but it'll get you to a second pass.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Right, for qualifying, yeah. I think that's the most logical solution to it.
I mean, we can come up with like tons of scenarios. Like,
Oh, you guys are great at that.
Listen to this one. Imagine if Corey just came back from lunch. He spilled barbecue sauce in his tires.
Yep, and it just seals them together perfect, and it doesn't debeat at 2 pounds.
Will that count as
would
glue?
you eat the barbecue sauce, or would you just let it run? What would you do? No.
I'll let you go if you lick it off.
Yeah, just let's taste it. No, man. Like, I think everything that you guys are doing is really cool for the sport, making it more understandable for the new fans coming in. And like you said, even going back to the brake light thing, kind of looking at it a little bit differently now. Can you imagine a new guy entering the sport, spectating for the first time? Like, dude, that guy's slowing down the whole bank and dragging his foot. Like, what is this? But now it's like you can separate that rather than understanding for the most general populace that comes to an FD event that hasn't been there. They're not just think they're slowing down. It's actually part of the control that driver is doing to maintain that line. 12 tire rule, 1 tire for practice. Is there anything else that we're going to be expecting thrown at us this year?
We might be changing around some of the wording on the actual scoring of the judging for qualifying, but not quite there yet for announcing of that stuff.
All right. So now that we heard all the cool, fun rules that you're bringing up, can you tell us anything cool about how you caught people cheating?
Kevin is loving it, man.
Well, okay, hold on. Because I want to know this. Okay, because you've obviously been in this position since 2012, and you evolve the rule book more and more each year. And you were kind of mentioning before, it's like, when things kind of present themselves, you got to start changing things. Can you at least name some things that influenced a rule book change that you've seen over the past 5-6 years?
A rule book change. Well, we had to change some of the wording after Delpha's attachment devices in his tires in Orlando to get rid of the glue, but because apparently glue wasn't.
It wasn't. It was to bead the tires on the wheels, Kevin. Come on, dude. You should know this.
Right.
This is the seated, dude.
But there's a minor thing there, and there hasn't really been that many crazy things, but there's always a constant development because there's always rumors. Oh, this person's doing this. Make sure to look at this. The brakes, for example, how I had to do a whole thing in there on the brake bias can only be front to rear, not side to side.
Right.
Because we had people with side to side on the front brakes.
And then what was the deal? You have to run the factory brake switch. Is there something there that you guys have caught or something?
No, you can run the factory brake switch, how it is normal, or you can run a pressure switch, and then we just clarified where the pressure switch had to be in vicinity to the master cylinder.
All right, well, so let's cut to the chase here. I appreciate you giving us insight, but I want to get to the nitty-gritty here.
Uh-oh.
Right.
Okay, this is the real banger that I have for you. Why can't we wear half-shell helmets?
Because no one wants to see your face.
That's not true, man.
That's a home run.
I'd come out there with face paint like ICP and light everybody up. That's
why you got that huge microphone, right? To cover your face.
Yeah, damn right. Nobody wants to see this thing. They'd rather see Shaggy Two Dope out there.
Just grow that mustache bigger.
Yeah, no. You just figured, what? Windows are up half the time anyways. You're wearing a Hans device. You're strapped in. What's a little Dale Earnhardt open face going to do to you?
Right, you're strapped in when something comes at your face.
Put fucking window nets up.
Corey's used to stuff coming at his face.
Paco, come on, dude. That's not true. Take that back, Paco. You son of a gun. Paco, you're
going back into a little bit of serious.
It's just more of an overall safety thing since we don't require windows or window nets. If we required windows or window nets, then maybe we could go that route.
I would say everybody needs window nets so we can go back to what real men used to do, and that's run NASCAR around Talladega with the freaking half shell on, dude.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yep.
So we're just doing the leather helmet, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a kamikaze skull cap. Yep. I'm just gonna be like an old NFL football helmet.
Maybe make it even like like run into your car, fire it up, and then race. Like not even seat belts.
Yeah, that just
back to the basics.
Let's go back. Formula One era. We're developing this series.
We die like men.
Yep. If we're going down, I'm gonna go right into the stands at Atlanta. Send me through the windshield, baby. We're going out. No, but it's like, like the thing is, like, because I get that question all the time from people is, why can't we run half shells? And as dumb as it is, half shells are comfortable, guys. I'm sorry to break it to you. It's pretty freaking comfortable, man. Nothing better than nice cool breeze hitting your cheeks.
I like the surroundings of like being like in my cocoon of.
Oh, is that
helmet.
you get focused into this Zen cocoon?
Yeah.
Corey
You turn
likes
into Mothra as you sit in the van.
And then you can put like cookies on the front of the piece. So if you're hungry, you just gotta like stand your mouth. And,
Oh, nice.
Grab
The
some
Predator.
cookies.
So you turn into the alien and Predator.
Pretty much.
You animal.
yeah. Well, actually, there's there's a little bit of like legends. I remember listening to some stuff like this, like a car crashing into the wall, and then suddenly a bunch of ball bearings all over the track.
So
You're-
basically, they're filling lead shot and bash bars.
Yeah.
And,
Like I mean, for when you were talking about like cheating, like there's for example like the limitations, like the weight. Like you only have to have how many pounds of ballast?
25 or 50?
50.
50.
50 pounds
Yeah.
of ballast. But then you're also allowed to put like 2 giant truck batteries on your car.
If they're connected.
Yeah, as long as
Yes,
they're connected.
As long as they are connected. See, like that was one, I had that in there and then I didn't, something happened in one of the updates. So yes, I had to clarify that they must be connected.
Just can't set them in there and not
Like what's
hook 'em
sitting
up.
right there.
Yeah.
But then, for example, like what's stopping people from, let's say, like if you're making like some piece of your car where you gotta seat your your fuel tank, whatever, and you just like weld like like a half-inch plate of metal for the bottom. I mean, is that allowed? I mean, is that like weight ballast?
Well, basically that can get you in trouble two ways because now you're basically structurally reinforcing the frame, which is not allowed. And then I also had to clarify that a little bit this year. We added the section regarding the skid plates and the width of the materials used in that. So you basically don't make, a dry stump tank cover that weighs 150 pounds because you're making it out of 3/8 steel. You know what I mean?
Right.
So basically tried to, as those tricky kind of odd things come up, try to unwind them, when we can.
So like the whole and for the people like who might be wondering what's up with all the ballast and all that stuff, the idea is try to avoid people go to a bigger tire, right?
Right. Well, basically, the weight puts you in the size tire you can run. So that's why people, fiddle around with the weight that way. And the reason, part of the reason why that was made, that was before my time, is basically just so you don't end up spending tons and tons of money on titanium and dry carbon and everything else, trying to make a 2,100-pound car and then put it on 295s.
Right.
Are you
Because
allowed?
anyone else that's not spending that money can't keep up with you.
Are you allowed to use chromoly for your roll cage?
Yes.
Because chromoly is like considerably lighter than regular DOM, right?
But it's also it's as strong or stronger.
I think it's stronger.
Yeah, well, there you go. That makes total sense.
Well, usually it ends up being lighter because they allow you to run a thinner wall tube of chromoly because it is stronger.
Okay.
So
But I require you to run the same size tubing.
Oh.
So you can't do
So then
it.
it just end up with the same, just more expensive material.
And stronger.
I'm gonna try to switch topics here because I want to go like the Pro-Am series and things like that. Do you think Pro-Am series should follow a similar rule book to what you guys run?
I mean that's a really hard question just because I don't see as much of those cars as those, series operators do. I think it's obviously good if they're basically training the drivers to basically follow, say, the Pro 2
Right.
set of rules for tires and stuff like that. So at least they're ready when they get here. But it's kind of a difficult thing because they can't necessarily kick out all the people that show up because I don't know, they have a vehicle that doesn't meet, the specifications for some reason because they need drivers to run in their series. So I think it's kind of hard on that aspect. But I mean, ideally, that would be great if they ran the same rules because then everyone would be, ready once they stepped up to Pro 2.
Right, and you know that's obviously we talk about this quite a bit. You know, the argument is the difference between a good Pro-Am car and a Pro 2 car, how there's this huge gap. And my personal belief is that by not following the rule book and not running the proper cage and safety equipment, that makes that budget that much more money to make that jump. When if you invest it early, you're not going to have to rebuy it twice. And that could be in anything. That could be the way your cage is made. That could be your safety equipment. That could be running a Hans device. But that's where it starts. Now everybody, you know, runs a problem. It's like, man, now I need to spend another $12,000 to get this thing ready. When if you actually kind of develop that over time, that will bridge that gap, that budget gap that everybody's talking about. And, you know, there's obviously a lot of people complaining, saying, you know, FD's way too expensive, way too expensive. But now it sounds like over the past year or two, you guys are trying to find a way to dial it back to make it more affordable for that privateer team that's still rolling up on the trailer. You know, that goes back to the whole 12 tire thing. That's a huge advantage. Or, you know, and that evens the playing field versus somebody that can run 1 million tires through practice.
But that rule does not apply for Pro 2.
Well, that's going to Pro 1. You still It's still that jump up to the series. Yeah, because in Pro 2, the theory is these guys need as much seat time as they possibly can. They need to learn. They still have a 4-hour window. And then they'll have to adapt to what Pro 1 is. But the thing is some of these Pro 2 guys haven't ran the tracks. They're not familiar with the layout. For somebody to develop and get their car dialed in for the first time at a new track in 12 laps would probably be pretty difficult. But, you know, a lot of these Pro 1 guys have been through either the Pro 2 ranks or been running multiple years in the series where it's very doable within 12 laps. Are you guys running that, you know, kind of going back to that, does Pro 2 kind of run a similar platform as far as running same tire for qualifying?
No, not this year.
Okay.
That might happen in the future, but at this point, we're just gonna try this out for Pro and then see how it works out.
And the reasoning for that is what?
That basically there's more Pro teams that have the ability to do the qualifying setup versus the tandem setup versus most of the Pro 2 guys who, like you said, they haven't even been there. They're focusing on just getting through and getting it done. They're not separating and making a setup for qualifying and making a setup for tandem.
Gotcha. Understandable.
So, yeah, so you were mentioning something about Pro-Am and moving into...
Oh, yeah, no, I kind of explained just the bridging the gap to make things more affordable for people to bridge that jump. But like it says, Kevin explained a lot to make the series that much more affordable. And even now, it's like this year, Formula Drift for the top 3 Pro 2 dudes, they get a budget within the series to pay for hard cards. There's Pro 1 registration comped. So they're doing things to reward the people climbing up the ranks. So it's like, I think there's a lot of good development happening, and I'm very interested to see where it goes in the next 2-3 years.
Is there any other big hard rules that are changing big time for this season?
Well, one that the fans might notice would be either the wheel stickers or the tire stickers or the wheel coloration. That I think is going to be an interesting thing. It'll definitely change the cosmetics if you're a new fan showing up, that you're going to see all the tire brands, you know, either on the tires or have markings on the rim.
So is this mostly for the tire manufacturers to be able to show that their tires are being run in the cars, or more like to be able to see the tires spinning, you know, the same reason why wheels weren't supposed to be all black, you know, in order to see the wheels spin and all that?
Right. This is more for the judges.
Oh, okay.
Right. That's why basically, if it was for the tire companies, then we'd obviously make them have to run the tire stickers with the tire company on it. But that's why we gave the option for, you know, the coloration on the wheels or the tire stickers. So depending on how your team is set up or the tire company you're working with, you can pick either option. But at least the judges can see your wheels are rotating, and they can see the stop with the handbrake, and you can see the things. It's much more pronounced.
Awesome.
Interesting.
Well, what do you say we hit some fan questions and
dude,
get Kevin rolling? I
like
know we have tons of them.
100 of questions. And
yeah, I didn't know you were so famous, Kevin. I didn't know a guy that held a stopwatch on the live stream got so popular, but you're definitely you're a popular dude. You may not know it. You should actually wear a clock around your neck and
The time cop.
Yep. Time Cop. Is that Sylvester Stallone? Is that a movie? with
That's
Sylvester?
Van Damme.
Van Damme.
No, that's Van Damme.
Yeah.
Dude, where have I been?
Van
Jeez.
Johnson.
Yes.
I have a question from Looking for Tonight. It says, "Hey, good looking. Would like to." Oh shit! No, sorry, that was Tinder.
Oh, sorry.
My bad.
Wrong app.
My bad.
Hey, I just got a quick question, actually. Was there any introduction of any new tools to be utilized by judges? Was there talk of like a box or something like that?
They should put judges for ride-alongs the whole event.
That has been a plan, not for the whole event, but at least a little bit. I'm still working on getting that done.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a very good way to do it. But yes, no, we're working with RacePack. We met with them in January, and they actually have a new unit that does an awesome graphical display of the track map, over Google Maps. And I don't know how to describe it. So if you're looking down on it, obviously it gives you the coloration of the, Excel, the speed, all that type of stuff. But you can tilt it, and it gives you the height reference for like the G's and the speed and stuff. It's actually a really just very easy way to understand the data versus just being in graphs and charts. So that's the system we're going to start trying to implement slowly here and do some testing in Long Beach. I did some testing with ESSA, a week before last or whatever, and I'm going to do a little bit more testing, and that's what we're working towards is using that system.
So the information from that box, like, what does it do for the judges? How does it help them?
Excel, decel, probably.
Excel more specific or more
Probably.
accurate? Okay.
Would you agree, Kevin?
Well-
Is that what it is?
Well, yeah, it definitely helps with that because now it's actual
Hard data.
the actual hard data, and the way that the data is presented actually looks very similar to our Excel decel maps because the way the coloration is on the map and that type of thing. So I think it's very easy to look at it quickly and see like, oh, that guy did brake check him
Okay.
and move on.
That's what I was going to ask Ness,
You
if there
know.
was a scenario in the past that this was going to provide a solution from preventing.
Well, my only one question is how are you going to provide that data for like the graphs and charts? Is that going to be off multiple drivers, or what are you going to do to get that data?
Well, I mean, in theory, we'll have it on everybody. when
Okay,
it's
cool. That
fully-
makes
when
sense.
It's fully implemented, but for right now, we're just going to try it on a few cars
Right.
and just basically see if it works the way we hope it does.
Awesome. All right, I got some real bangers for you right here. I'm going to start off with this one right here. This is from Max Frolic.
Ugh.
All right.
Okay.
Actually, no, I'm going to take that back. This is from Warren 97 SS. Does FD not allow body-on-frame vehicles because of the obvious advantage of an 80s Chevrolet El Camino?
Amen, buddy. I drive a Crown Vic.
That's a huge advantage, dude. I can see why you ban them, but is that true or what?
It used to be, well, it's not really worded anymore that body on frame vehicles aren't allowed. It used to be like that for a little bit because it had something to the regard of full frame vehicles are not allowed. But basically now, if you want the new vehicle and it's produced over the given quantity in the rule book and stuff like that, we just need to go through it and basically approve the vehicle.
So you're saying it's possible then?
Anything's
Yeah.
plausible.
Oh,
Paco, what do you got?
Wait, so okay, wait. This,
Oh,
this
boy.
is big.
All right, let's go.
This is big.
Yeah,
so,
this
so
is
does
new.
that means any vehicle is allowed now? Like, I mean, like you could totally drive an El Camino if you wanted to.
Well, no trucks or SUVs, but yeah, as long as you meet that, then you're fine.
Huh.
there
so
you go.
the Crown Victoria would totally be allowed.
They ran in it before.
Or a C3.
Oh, that's right.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, but the C3 is the same as a C6 or C7. They
or a
still...
C3PO, so
Yeah.
it's all the same stuff. Here's one. This is from A East 88. What is the reason for the subframe spacing from the chassis rule?
Ooh, that's up your alley, Corey.
Yeah, because that happened to me, which I failed in Texas, by the way, twice, and I had to borrow subframe spacers from Honadel
Jeez.
to pass tech. But what is the reasoning behind that?
Basically, because depending on the vehicle you're using, if I allow you to slam your subframe up to the chassis, some vehicles have almost an 1.5 inch gap in there. So you get a considerable more range of motion for your inner pivot points. Then on top of that, you would get your 2 inches of movement. And then on top of that, you would get your 1 inch of movement. So So if in that particular car, usually the Camaro, you can move it 3.5 inches between those two options.
Gotcha.
Versus if you have it in, I don't know, a 350Z, 370Z, whatever, just top of my head. I don't know, it's a 1/2 inch in the front and 1/4 inch in the back or something around that area. You don't have nearly as much room to play with.
Makes sense. Understandable now. Now
So
I know why you failed me.
It's just making it more uniform because certain vehicles always have a different advantage. This is just trying to even that out.
Interesting.
I have a question from TR Dixo.
Oh,
So,
there you go.
yeah. How mad were you when Kristaps drove off the jack stands? Because in the replay you can see his
Kevin
face. He's
slow-mo.
like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
I don't think I was mad that he really drove off the stands. That was more just like, okay, like he's just shaking my head. Didn't expect that one. It was more that basically that they didn't understand that they were done, and they couldn't run with a few lug nuts loose and that type of thing on the passenger side. So that was more the miscommunication between me and some of the crew guys. But Kristaps got it once he got out of the car. He got what
was there any point where you said, dude, this guy's an animal, I need to let him run? Like, or did you ever say, dude, I want to let him run just to see what happens? Did that ever go through your mind at all?
So, sometimes, but the problem is like I kind of have to.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll just give him a shot. Why not? It's a 50-50. It was
a very close yes.
Or it might be bad, but you should what you should do is when it comes down to a decision like that, do some like paper, rock, scissors or something to see if you should run or not. And if
flip
whoever,
a coin.
yeah, flip a coin. You should do like a coin toss like the NFL, if you should run or not, because that would definitely make it a little bit more interesting.
But then you guys would just say I was cheating.
Well, that's already the case already. Yeah, that's a double-headed coin.
That's an afterthought. That's an afterthought.
Dude, I don't know,
Right, I
man.
have to go look at the script, right? And then see
That's
what
right.
size it lands on.
Well, I'll just have to see what energy drink you're drinking. That'll usually point where the money's coming from too.
Yep.
So,
That's a good giveaway.
Dr. Pepper doesn't sponsor us.
Oh,
but,
God
they
damn.
can call me anytime they want.
Kevin doesn't run on blood. He runs on Dr. Pepper. He has veins filled with Dr. Pepper.
How many flavors is it?
There's only one, baby.
No,
No,
23 flavors, right?
3.
God, you guys.
I wanted to see how faithful were you to the Dr. Pepper legacy.
So here's one right here. This is actually a good one. This is from Pistonhead Productions. What is the most innovative thing you've seen to bend the rules?
So bend without breaking.
Yep.
I think probably it would be the brake bias side to side just in the front, so the judges couldn't see the wheel lock up, but you could still use your left foot braking.
That is so cool.
That's pretty damn impressive.
That is pretty aggressive. Let's say you're running the bank.
And I told him that. I was like, that's not against the rules, but that's pretty damn impressive. I like it. I was like, it will be eventually.
So they would turn the bias off on the inside wheel that has the load off of it so it doesn't skid, right? Is that the idea?
Yep.
Wow.
Good stuff. Very smart.
That is brilliant.
Yep.
Was there only one guy doing that this year or the past couple of years?
There was one, and then they did it to one other car.
Wow.
So there was 2 total.
That is awesome. That's cool.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's the type of stuff I'm like, damn, okay. I kind of like that because at least it's, pretty interesting innovation,
Yep. I have a good one from Iron Dookie.
There you go. First time caller, first time writer.
Yep, it's gonna be a hard one. He's asking, are footy pajamas a good substitute for a race suit? Asking for my friend Corey.
Oh, God.
Nice.
I was more looking at the other one because he also wrote another comment that says, what driver has been the biggest pain in your ass, both current drivers and past?
Oh, that's Corey too.
Not a chance I'm answering that.
But I'm sure you might get a headache from some people. Be like, come on, Kevin, just let it slide, Kevin. Oh, my 5 minutes. What's 5:02 on the clock? Come on, it's only 2 seconds past, Kevin. Come on. I'm sure you haven't ran into any of those scenarios before.
Because the big clock doesn't lie.
Time cop can't
Counts down and beeps, and there's nothing else. I can't help you,
And here's another question that proves my point. This is from Ken the Juicy Gucci.
Ooh.
He says, in explanation, which means he's yelling at you, Kevin. This is not him talking nicely. This is him yelling. Please ask him to reconsider open face helmets. I'm getting anxiety attacks with my visor down. Now it's a safety issue. Now you're running into safety issues.
Yeah, it's mental health
He
issue.
Yeah,
has
mental
his
health.
windows bolted closed. He's getting anxiety. He should unbolt his windows.
Yeah, just go.
What about companion pets?
Like drift with your dog.
Yeah, let you have your your anxiety puppy sitting on your lap.
Well,
while
if the
you're-
dog has a fire suit and helmet, I don't see why not. You know?
Right.
That's a new one.
Here's one from J Wright 12C. Who's got the most engineered car in the current field?
Ooh.
Engineered. I mean, obviously, I don't know. Bluss's cars are pretty damn nice.
Yeah, they are.
They go kind of over the top on some of their creativity on stuff. Obviously, the ASD builds are very nice.
Those are Vons, is he?
Yes.
Yep.
What about that
Yeah, I mean,
Osmo car?
those are probably the easy.
What about the IM
Stakeouts, I guess.
or the TC? The IM, the TC.
Oh yeah, no. Steph always makes pretty buff stuff too.
Did you call him Papa Daddy Kisses or just do you go by Steph? What do you call him?
Just
Just
Steph.
Steph. Oh, you guys are that close, man.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
But yeah, no, I mean a lot of the cars are it just depends on if it's complicated and engineered or simple and engineered. Kind of depends
Right.
on the question. Because some of them are extremely simple, just beautiful, and everything works.
Oh God.
You know? So
Here-
it kind of depends on the value, you know?
All right, this is another interesting one. This is from 666 Drifter.
Ew.
What's the most ridiculous rule, tech, or safety violation you've came across on a car? Don't have to give names, but you can give a specific scenario. I'm sure there's so
Most
many.
ridiculous.
I'm sure there's people probably rolled up to Tech in Long Beach still with the car not put together at
Somebody
all.
made you question why they're even there.
Like I'm sure Tech in Long Beach can get pretty exciting for you. Probably, especially like 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, there's cars that always don't start. There's always cars like Corey's that don't turn off. Turn off.
Turn the kill switch. Fuck.
You know, you got cars that show up with no seat belts. You know, there's always like random things. I don't know how extreme it is, but it's just, you know, just stuff that's not ready. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, damn, I can't think of anything good. I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah, you have 1,000 questions to come back to on your Instagram account. I know you have tons of emails every single day, but you have a lot of people here really curious about many things, Kevin.
I think
so-
I have a good one right here.
All right.
This one's from Barnhill.
Right.
Have you ever had to immediately make a rulebook change in mid-season, or have all changes waited until the end of a season to be implemented?
I can't think of anything technical wise that we've done mid-season. For the most part, unless it's something that's like a safety concern, then I would probably, at least I would prefer to wait until the season's over and then start again fresh.
Nice. Here's one. T-Man 52. What's your favorite color?
Green.
Green. Oh. Not,
There you go.
Right there. You know, a Jared plug, a green Yeti full of Dr. Pepper.
Ooh, keep
there
that
you
thing
go.
on ice. Here's a random question from Sausage Butt 44.
Ooh,
He wants to know if have you seen any type of traction control or people trying to implement traction control within the series?
Well, if I've seen it, I would have busted him for it. So unfortunately, or I haven't caught anybody yet.
But have
So,
you heard any potential stories? Like obviously that's one of the things that kind of floats around is people always talk about there's gonna be one day where traction control is gonna be in this sport.
Or do you believe it exists? That should be the real question.
That's the other thing. Do you
Yeah.
think it's already being implemented and we just don't know it? And how would we detect that?
That would be pretty hard to detect.
Dude, Sausage Butt just comes in with some really good
Wow.
questions.
Detecting it is definitely the hard part. That is the major complication with that whole thing, because they make units now, not even in the computers, that are like the size of a quarter, that have traction control in them. It's a very difficult process to get through, but hopefully, as we're working towards this data box for the judges and the XLD cell thing, that will be another benefit to having that data, is you should be able to spot some of those items.
And that'd probably go ahead, Brian.
I'm sorry. So if this data box had allowed to have sensors connected to it that would optically monitor the wheels would move at a different speed if traction control is being activated compared to if the vehicle had no traction control to exist.
It'll be super hard.
It would probably be at.
that.
No, it would be at, well. I from my belief, Kevin may answer this differently, but from my understanding, it'd be at a more consistent wheel speed. I don't think it would ramp up or be more modular. I think it would set it to a certain point, or depending on how it's timed, would be more sustained wheel speed, rather than seeing it move.
I just didn't know if maybe something seeing it would help detect
I wonder
that.
if Kevin would have a better explanation of that. What data would you pull off of that to say, hey, there might be a case of traction control?
Well, the problem is we don't allow those sensors, so I don't want to have people add wheel speed sensors,
right?
So
Okay.
I can have them. You know what I mean? Because then they can piggyback off them, in the harness and that type of thing. So,
So it's just more or less a gentleman's agreement.
Well, and you can look for the sensors through TAC as well.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, I believe it's Torque and Lucas, when they look for traction control in theirs, they do a lot of it off the RPM curves themselves.
Cool.
Of the actual engine RPM.
All right, here's a question from Whiskey Boner 43. He wants to know who won the Forsberg and Forest battle from New Jersey, and did you find anything broken on either one of the cars?
Ooh. I don't know, whatever the judges declared was the winner on that one. And I can't.
Did you get involved in that at all?
Not really, because I didn't realize it was actually a problem till later. Because I think all I did was, I think the judges declared a winner, so I didn't have a 5-minute call on either one of those two cars. They just went away on their, I think Forrest drove out, and I don't remember. But I didn't have to go check them after that. Like in a standard 5-minute call, that type of thing.
I got one more.
Sorry,
I got one more.
I can't be of more help on that one.
All right, this is my last question from me, and this is from Mr. Steal Your Dog. When does Underglow return?
Oof.
I don't think it's been.
When Corey gets back there and brings it out.
Damn, well, I thought Vaughn had Underglow. That green
More like
Underglow
is
in his
in the
rear.
grill? Is it in the rear? Maybe.
Yeah, it makes his smoke look a little greenish.
Green. That's Kevin's favorite color. Maybe he's trying to
Very-
sway Kevin. That's the decision.
Illuminati confirmed.
That's it. Vaughn's cheating with the green lights to sway Kevin, so Kevin likes his car because there's green on it. Makes sense. All right.
All right, that's it. We cracked the code, Corey.
Yeah, that's sorry. I wish I was down sooner.
Figured it out.
It wasn't the Dr. Pepper.
No, it was the green machine.
It's like Monster
'cause Kevin-
Energy.
I just can't wait till I can hypnotize Kevin with like a green
Monster
twirly
Energy's
thing.
green too.
Illuminati confirmed. All right, that's it for questions for me, Paco. What do you got? One
I have
more?
one from Honey Badger Drift. It's asking, why do cars have to have 2 FIA rated seats?
Basically because we allow ride-alongs in Pro, so I can't stick
Somebody
a media guy or someone from the LA Times in a seat that's not approved to be on track.
Which makes total sense. But I mean, definitely wanted you guys to hear it from the man himself, because I kind of like, that just makes sense. Like, you're not going to just let somebody sit in a AutoZone seat when you're going 100 miles into a wall. Let me see. I thought I saw another one here. Oh, okay. Last one. Very last one from Macho Man Randy Sanchez.
Okay, hit it.
If you were in prison, what gang would you join? Or would you start your own gang?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one to end on for sure.
I think I'd have to start my own.
What would you call it?
Ooh, I don't know.
And who would be in your gang?
Ooh,
Who would be your general?
Ooh.
it's getting complicated here.
Man, I don't know. I need like a one of those books so I can go through and pick the people I want to join.
You can
First
join.
name off the top of
need
your
the
head. That's
mugshot
going to be the
book.
one.
Well, Paul, let's make this easy. Brian, what would your gang name be? Go.
Big
Go.
balls.
Big balls. Paco, what'd your name be?
Corey on the Hosfords.
Nice. Mine would be the butt chuggers.
Wow.
Kevin, what's yours?
What type of gang prison are you guys in?
Well, I'm chugging Dr. Pepper through my butt the whole time. I don't know what you're doing. If you want to join, you're in. I know you love Dr. Pepper, so I thought it'd be a good fit.
Mine is just a cover band.
There you go. That's what you guys do after this?
We go do
go
headstands in the
karaoke?
parking lot and jam out like old Hanson.
I got a question from Base Flu Champion
All right,
2018.
last one.
Oof.
Hit it.
Baseball
He
champion.
wants to know that if he can cut the top of his car off to make it look like a convertible, would that be legal?
Oh, nope.
No.
That's illegal. I can call that.
Oh wow, Corey, you want to be like Formula Drift's next?
I'm
technical
taking Kevin's
advisor?
job after this. I'm taking notes this whole time because I know how bad I want to tech cars. I love
I'm just
working
proud
on.
of Corey. He read the rule book.
Hey, don't take that for
Well,
granted.
when you fail it 3 or 4 times, you have to reread it a few times. Come on.
I'm just saying, it's almost bringing a tear to my eye here.
Hey, dude, I'm trying to get up to par here. If it took me a while to learn it and read it, but I'm on page 4, so I got about 60 more to go.
So we gonna put some money on before you bring your car out to Atlanta or what?
Oof.
Do you know what? I would say yes because PSI is doing it, and I know they're going to do it right.
Gonna do it
And
right.
so I'm not the one wood screwing in parts anymore. I'm
Yeah.
leaving up to the
Plus, Corey's
pros.
already putting money on the car. I mean,
Yep.
like that's
Yep.
the only way to get it done so far.
But if I fail, I'll owe you Dr. Pepper and probably a vape pen or something. I don't know. I'll borrow Matt Field's vape. All right, Kevin, we appreciate you. I know you love being in front of the camera. You're very outspoken on the live stream and off the stream.
Anybody you want to thank, your sponsors at all?
I would like to thank Ryan, Sage, Jim Lau for allowing me to hold the stop clock. What? I'm not
Kevin,
holding.
we just gotta get him like a big clock that he just hang with a chain.
No,
Flav.
idea. Kevin and Ryan, I know you guys are still here. You need to get Kevin like a referee NFL coach shirt with the black and white stripes and a whistle.
And a Flav
Yep.
digital clock.
His eyes are just
Yeah,
closed.
sorry, Kevin.
loving
No.
Yes.
Well, anyways, Kevin, thank you for being part of the show. You are a huge asset to the sport. I know you work your little butt off all the time, creating rules, enforcing the rules. Not many people want your judges or the judge's job because they're the most difficult to do. So we give you all the credit. Thank you for joining, and we'll probably see you at Long Beach.
Thanks, guys. Have fun.
All right,
you.
brother. We'll
See
see
you.
you.
Have a good night.
Later.
Before we talk shit, let's make sure he's gone. Brian.
Oh, come on, Brian.
No, he's just gone.
So what I did is I took notes on what I can cheat on.
Uh huh.
All right, did you write anything down?
Well, dude, yeah, I wrote race pack, tire stickers, safety cage, tires debeading. We got everything
We
right
didn't,
here.
we didn't talk about alternative power sources to move the car either,
No.
like electric motors.
Well, I mean, a lot of
Assisted?
people actually asking about they want to know like more about like allowing electric cars into Formula Drift, which actually, I mean, they already said that they're open for it.
Right.
It's just they're just waiting. Here's my prediction, and I think Brian and I were talking about this. It's kind of like actually our prediction.
Okay, go for it.
2019, Elon Musk is bringing Tesla to Formula Drift.
Point that early.
Huh?
I think it's going to be
I think
2020,
it's-
2021.
I think it's
because the
2019
the
will be-
Roadster doesn't come out until what, 2021 or
It doesn't have to be
2022?
a Roadster.
But I think that's going to be the car they're really going to be pushing for performance. I think the other ones are not a performance-based marketing.
But I believe that they could come with a performance model with one of the current models that are out right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it just depends if they release that way or not.
it has a
Absolutely.
very nice. The sedan has a very good wheelbase already,
Yep.
and
I think I think it just all depends on what Tesla wants to go with the marketing. If they would come up with something like that, then
I know Elon Musk is listening because he's
he
big,
always tunes in. Yeah,
first
actually.
caller,
Do you
long-time
know
listener.
anytime the Roadster Outer Space we're live, it streams to the Roadster. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's watching
I don't
right
know,
now.
Brian.
Well,
Thanks
I mean,
for setting that up.
We saw that. I mean, we posted a photo. And actually, he was listening on his way to work.
So okay, you guys, this was a lot. of information.
Yeah.
What's the biggest surprise that you've heard today, except from Kevin? What's the biggest thing you're just like mind blown?
I think that just the whole tire thing is going to be, well, okay. So when Kevin told me that they were going to do 12 laps, at first I was like, dude, like the thing is, a lot of guys make a huge hike out, and sometimes if they get knocked out and top, if they don't qualify, they're only they made all this trip for 12 runs.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's one thing, but it's like, who cares? Go out there and qualify. It doesn't matter. So you can't. It's irrelevant. The tires used for qualifying or the one set of tires for qualifying, it made sense after he explained that, hey, we don't want people constantly changing. There's a super loose qualifying setup and there's a high bound up tight competition tandem setup. Now you get what you see from qualifying all the way up through competition. So I think it's going to let them play field that way. I think this sport is changing a lot, and I think they're making a lot of changes. And this is like 14 years of data or 13 years of data they have to build it to this point. So,
and nothing saying these rules are permanent either. They've removed rules in the past as well.
If this doesn't work, it can totally change it.
But they've justified it between themselves to make it an actual rule for the season to see how it plays out, which is really interesting.
It's going to be one of those rules that a lot of people is very resilient about taking on it until they start working on it and they realize, like, oh, okay, well, this actually beneficial. Beneficial for the show, for the teams, So I think it might take a couple rounds
from the kind of get used to it and broken
for people
in.
to start kind of getting used to it.
So now that we're thinking about this tire rule, who do you think hurts from this rule the most?
I think the teams that get a billion tires that could do on unlimited laps and constantly change. And they'll go out and do one run, take the set of tires off, do another run on new tires if they're qualifying. We don't like the setup, put another set of new tires on. So they may only get one set of tires to simulate what they'll be experiencing in qualifying. Now that you only have 12 runs, you may either go all new tires for 12 runs if you want to simulate qualifying.
They just have to be more accurate on their practice, because
I know there's a purpose for every practice run now.
I know, like a lot of drivers, kind of like dial it down during practice, in order to save the engine, save the tires. But now that they're not going to have that many runs, they might need to be running, closer to 100. On every practice run, just to make sure that the the car is perfectly dialed.
It's all hypothetical. All the little stuff that they would do just to burn a lap to shake it down. The other thing, I don't want to spend too much time on talking. We've been talking about it a lot, but the other thing is like this. Think about this. Okay, this may be a hypothetical, but this is something I wish I would ask Kevin. Is there's sometimes where if I were to go to a new track, I would drive the lap and not drift the lap.
Right.
So does that considered using one of my 12?
That's a good question.
Well, but from what I understood is that you can use 12 sets.
No, you're wrong. It's 12 laps, one set. So what I'm saying is if I go to a new track and I don't want to drift the first lap, I just want to get a lay of the land and see what the course is like, if there's any debris or what the aft surface condition looks like. Hold on.
Yeah.
Then I'm not going to drift that lap.
Yeah, but I would imagine they will let everybody do a parade lap.
We never done before, and it's not justified anywhere.
So
that's all hypothetical.
We don't know for sure. We don't know for sure. We just have to assume take one lap to sacrifice as a reconnaissance lap. Yeah.
So that's the other thing I wish I would have Kevin, but now that we're talking about it, and I'm thinking about it, but
Corey,
that's
you were late thinking.
And here's the other thing too is you don't. Okay, so they're all practicing for qualifying Thursday and Friday. So everybody's driving by themselves. And so after Friday, qualifying's over. There's practice. Is there practice after qualifying? I can't remember.
That's the one that he says that there's practice and you can do as many runs as you want.
Now here's where the tires
as long as you still have tires, you're allowed tires for.
So now they're all practicing tandeming, and the people with a limited number of tires are still affected by this.
Yeah. So Ryan, Ryan, I talked to Kevin because Ryan Sage says, Corey, the question for the laps is, what's the average pre-qual lap count for each driver as it exists? And from my understanding, from talking to Kevin and a couple other guys, it is 9 laps to about 17 laps. But I don't know, Ryan, if that was over the course of one day or if that's a 2-day combined.
I think that was a 2-day combined, is what he was referring to.
The 12 lapses, but I don't like back in the
between
day.
9 and 10, like
Yes.
9 to 17 laps in a day. From what I've witnessed, I mean, I'm sure other people could chime in who have been to like every pro round, but I would say that's about a number for one day.
I would say that's a number for one day too. Is about anywhere from 9
Yeah.
to 16, just depending. Like even if I go back to Texas, I probably did
Forbidden
8
accident. Or anything like that,
I
you know?
probably did 8 to 10 laps before, but then that's not accounting the following day. So that means I'd only have 2 laps left.
Yeah.
Which then I have to conserve them. So yeah, I think it's obviously this information I'm assuming is pulled from data, and they looked at the average lap because back in the day they used to write lead and chase during your top 32 practice. As far as how many laps you did, I'm sure they probably took that data. There was probably not a dumb decision, but obviously there has to be some sort of data before they make the move.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's going to be cool. I'm totally stoked on it.
It'll be
I'm not worried about
interesting to see how things develop in the
Yeah.
first couple rounds. How many days until Long Beach, Corey? 1 month?
Ooh, let me take a look right now. Do-do-do-do-do.
So in the meanwhile, it's funny. We definitely have an event happening here in Phoenix that we had last year, which pretty much that was Brian's Big Balls Brian's christening as the structure of Lexus's.
Christening.
Yeah, christening. There you go.
We
So-
actually have 1 month
1 month exactly to Long
from
Beach.
today before
Wow.
Long Beach is live.
We are-
31 days.
1 month to Long Beach, but 10 months to Desert Mayhem 2.
Part
It's actually
two.
going to be 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
So Desert-
Overnight, Saturday night with the barbecue and everything.
December 1st and 2nd, Desert Mayhem is happening.
That's going to be hot. Very, very hot.
So, in other news, before we go, Corey, you saw the Corvette?
Yeah, I saw you set an engine in it.
Yeah, there's a 1J on the Corvette now. I mean, at least this is just for testing purposes, the sizing.
And it sits like the front of the engine is just barely behind the center of where the strut towers are.
Yeah, so I mean that's not the engine that's gonna be in the car, but it it allow me to see how's the engine going to sit in that car, and it's looking good. It looks like the engine belongs in that car. So
For me,
Corey,
I set the boss free yesterday.
oh that's right. Where's the car?
I set the boss free. So, you actually got me in contact with the guys, AZ Go Fast. So there's a company out here called AZ Go Fast, and they're a concierge race service, which I never thought anything like that would exist, but it makes sense. So they do logistics from transporting to taking products or picking up products. If you're at the track, you need somebody to run errands for you, like pick up parts or whatever it is. It's a full service that contributes and is an extra hand in the pits if it's transporting and anything like that. So I talked to the guys, and they're transporting the boss to PSI as of this morning at 5 a.m. So the boss is on the road heading to Portland Speed, where I talked to Jason just the other day. He's the owner of PSI. Talked to Jason where they're literally ready to rock and roll in that thing. And it's kind of cool, man, to talk to people like Jason who has so much experience in the sport and him giving like the full insight and having a game plan put together before the car even gets there. And it shows the big difference from going to like a local mom and pop shop to like a full legit racing organization. And, I had some thinking about this because I've been running into a lot of people, and especially the scenarios we had out here with some of our old fab shops where people would spend tons of money.
Yeah.
They don't get the results back. Right.
Yeah.
And the thing I was thinking about is so many people invest money incorrectly into their race car that they do it 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times, and I've been guilty of that. And the thing is I know when you team up and everybody's like, man, that's a heavy bill to pay, but it's like at the end of the day, you're probably saving a lot more money rather than fixing issues that the other people have created.
That's a really good point, because a lot of people are trying to, especially starting out, trying to find the best deal possible, wherever means they can get it. So if one thing didn't work out with one friend's shop, you're trying to find another shop. But it's just you making the right decision for your car. I mean, there's lots of small shops that do an amazing job too.
Right.
But there's also a lot of shops that are just reluctant to deal with building drift cars in
Right.
general. They just don't even touch them.
Yep.
And even though they're a quality shop, so it's harder on the newer drivers who are wanting to build cars. unless they are talking to the right people or people who are actually willing to give
Right.
drift. Like we had a shop that closed on us recently here, where your car was
Yeah,
at
Merca.
before.
Keith was awesome, and he was
Yeah.
the last standing, like the best shop.
That's what I mean. He
And-
gave people a chance, and to build their cars, and he took a lot of hits too,
Right.
but he still kept drifting alive here to
Right.
give people a chance to have cars built by people who know what they're doing.
Right.
So yeah, we need something like
And
that.
and so like for me looking back at this and talking with some of the people that were in scenarios of like, man, my car went to 12 different shops. I look at this and it's like, and this just happened yesterday. I had a conversation with somebody. They're building a Z and it had an LS in it, and there's a 350Z, and the dude's like, I must have spent like 40 grand on this thing to get it ready, and that's literally cage. Everything is like, it's way too much money, and now I'm spending another 20 to repair it to make it legal for the series, and it's like, if you just go to a really reputable shop, I know it's gonna be tough initially budget wise, but then the day you don't want to keep fixing it. And that's kind of where I feel, or where I'm at with PSI now, is like, it's going to hands. They have touched millions of these cars before. They, innovated the anti-lag systems, and they're super familiar with everything about this car. So when it goes there, it's just like, boom,
Yeah,
it's cookie
yeah,
cutter. I
yeah.
can knock this all out. And that's what gives me a lot of confidence. And I think being a driver, even a race car driver, hopping into a car and being confident with what you're getting
Yeah.
is super crucial. And I know it's tough, like making that financial jump into doing something like this. But at the end of the day, it's like, I feel good because I know it's going to be done right.
Right. Now, to be fair on both sides, sometimes when people, if they don't have that kind of opportunity to be able to pay a shop to do that,
Right.
they have to find other means. By all means, whatever it takes to get a car put together, if
Right.
it's friends that are
Absolutely.
pitching in,
And that's what I've been doing
building
my-
your home garage.
my whole life.
Everybody kind of basically started out that way, getting a drift car anyways.
Right.
And so you would learn through those mistakes. So it's just you by going that route, you automatically assume, okay, I understand this isn't perfect, but we're doing the best we can. Problems happen, we'll take care of
Right.
it. And as long as
It's
you have a
definitely
good
a learning
attitude
curve,
with the
for
build,
sure.
then there's nothing wrong with going that route. And a lot of people became very successful with their cars.
Yep.
From right out of the garage.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, but it's to a point now where it's like, I tried everything out here.
Yeah.
I've literally done everything out here, and I felt like this is something I should have tried to have done a long time ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, so it's super cool. So I'll be at PSI, and I still listen to this. I sent the AZ Go Fast guys up with my vlogging camera. So I
Oh.
told them to document the trip while they're driving out.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
then I
cool.
was thinking about also giving them on Maximum Driftcast to give a tour of the car getting dropped off and things like that through a live stream. So you guys see tons of updates. I know Portland Speed will post a bunch of stuff, but I'm super excited about this. I've never driven this car before. I've owned it for 2.5 years. I never driven it. Keith from Merca has driven it more
He's
than
the
I
one who
have.
drove it into the
He
dyno.
drove it into the dyno. He did
Yeah.
a donut in it, and he loaded up in the trailer. And then now they say, don't worry about this. It'll be done, and you'll be more than happy than ever. So
Now,
I'm just so blown away, dude. Like, I've been waiting for this for 2 years. Literally drive this thing for 2 years. I even resorted back to drive the Z again, and I loved it, don't get me wrong, but it's like, I'm so happy to drive an S14.
Yeah, and a fresh build.
Brand new.
Speaking of fresh builds, Brian, how's your build going?
It's definitely been the strain with the build right now is just the financial part of it, which is the hardest thing for me. But I've been doing everything I can to keep Garrett with what he needs to be able to keep working on the car, and I'm going to be spending pretty much every weekend from after this coming weekend on to the first round of Pro-Am, investing my time traveling to Vegas on the weekends to help.
Make sure that everything's done.
Yeah, just help out and make as much as I can, because he's been doing a really amazing job spending time on my car when he's still working on Forrest's car and other
Well,
things that he has
The
responsibility
thing about
for.
Garrett, too, man, is Garrett's another dude that's like, you're confident giving him a piece of equipment like that.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
He's done it so
Oh, yeah.
many times. Like, I give Garrett tons of credit, dude, because that guy has built some, like, top-notch stuff. I think I was on Forrest's Instagram. They were wiring up the Hall Tech on Forrest's car, and Garrett just ran, like, everything's super meticulous, tucked away nice and tight. And it's like, that's the type of dude that you want working on your shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Once again, I've been down the other side of that where it's like wiring harness, just push into the glove box and it slams shut.
Zip tight.
That was my Miata.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
The
there's a
van.
difference.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going, and that's the thing is people are like, Pro-Am is kind of expensive to run. Do you know it's more expensive having a car not set up right, going to a Pro-Am and paying to be there, and it breaking?
Yeah, and then you feel like you got to get this fixed because
Yeah.
you don't want to just ditch after the first round. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of forethought.
Yeah, I think
you
you're doing it right, Brian. You're definitely
I hope so. I
going
hope
down
so,
the right
but
path.
I feel good about it. This is the best I felt because I've never built a car. The Miata was almost completely stock, just coilovers in a cage. The
Right.
350Z before that, same story. And there was like a 4-year gap between those two cars. And now it's a 2-year gap between the Miata and the BMW.
Right.
So yeah, but this BMW is a first car I've ever owned that has like an engine swap. It has a turbo.
Right.
It has more power than stock. So this is a whole new world for me that I feel like I have. Coming in as a rookie on a lot of things that I have a lot of personal challenges to go in my rookie year, and I'm ready to take them on.
Yeah,
I know
man.
there's going to probably be some. Yeah, we've already seen me hit the wall before, so it's
Oh yeah, we saw that.
that's a possibility too, and I have to accept these things that I have to learn the car and learn how to drive through this rookie year and just do my best.
Yeah, man,
Just,
you'll be
if I can
fine.
just qualify, I'd be happy.
Right. Well, anyways, guys, we're super excited about this episode. It was awesome talking to Kevin, get a little more insight. Obviously, the show wouldn't be possible without AEM Inductions. Those guys have been part of us since day one. They were number one, and we have tons of plans rolling into this year. And you obviously heard last episode that we'll be doing something special with FD at all 8 rounds. We'll be there live, and that's brought to you by AEM. They're going to be helping us, and we'll break some more news of that. Obviously, McLeod Clutches. Those guys been, once again, they're number 2. They've been helping us out for so long, and
Our Patreon.
our Patreons. You
Those
know,
guys
you
killing
guys
it.
are actually number 1 too. So we have a bunch of fun stuff. We mentioned some giveaways. We're finalizing deals on those. But thank you guys all for being supporters of the show. We wouldn't be here without you. But I think next week, let's now announce who we have next week. Let's see what the day is. Next week we'll have Justin Pollock.
Justin Pollock coming on Maximum
Yeah.
Driftcast.
So we'll hear about from JTP himself. But then again, thank you guys for being part of the show. We will see you guys next week on Maximum Driftcast.
Maximum Driftcast. Have a good night, guys. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. Buenas.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Buenas noches.
Adios, way.
See you.
I can't find the
Llantera.
button. There it is.
Biblio Azteca.
Bye bye.